In everyday life, we're surrounded by noise, talkative friends, confident extroverts, constant conversations filling every space. But then, there's always that one person who doesn't fit into that pattern. The one who sits slightly apart, speaks less, observes more, and never really explains themselves unless absolutely necessary. And in the world of quiet people psychology, that silence often becomes something people misread entirely. There's a common social scenario. You meet a group, and everything feels normal until you notice someone who barely speaks. They're not reacting the same way, not participating in the same way, and their presence feels harder to read. This is where social perception bias begins to take over. In a society dominated by extroversion, where loudness is often mistaken for confidence, silence starts to feel unusual, and what humans don't understand, they tend to fill with assumptions. This is where the stereotype begins. Quiet individuals are often labeled as mysterious, awkward, or even dangerous, not because of what they do, but because of what they don't reveal. This is the core of societal bias against quietness, a misunderstanding rooted in the fear of the unknown. The less information we have about someone, the more our mind tries to construct a story. And sometimes, that story is completely disconnected from reality. But silence is not emptiness. In many cases, it reflects a different kind of processing. Within introversion versus extroversion psychology, introverted or socially reserved individuals often engage more deeply in internal thought than external expression. Their silence is not absence, it is observation. This is where things become more complex. Quiet individuals often develop strong observation skills. They notice subtle shifts in tone, micro-changes in body language, and environmental details that others overlook. Their attention to detail becomes a form of silent awareness. While others participate in conversations, they are often analyzing them, reading between the lines, decoding intention, and understanding emotional patterns. This creates a different kind of intelligence. Not loud, not obvious, but strategic. In cognitive and strategic thinking, quiet individuals often prefer non-impulsive decision-making. Instead of reacting instantly, they observe, process, and calculate outcomes. This leads to stronger problem-solving ability, long-term planning, and more controlled responses in high-pressure situations. To outside observers, this delay in reaction can feel unpredictable, but in reality, it is often intentional processing. And this is where perception begins to shift again. A silent personality trait is often mistaken for unpredictability. People struggle to read those who don't openly express emotions or intentions. This creates what psychologists refer to as social ambiguity, a space where interpretation replaces understanding. The quieter someone is, the more others project onto them. But unpredictability is not the same as instability. In many cases, it is simply privacy. Within emotional intelligence, EQ, quiet individuals often develop a strong ability to read others instead of being read themselves. They become skilled at detecting emotional changes, understanding motivation, and interpreting unspoken tension in social environments. This gives them a heightened sense of social intelligence, not through expression, but through awareness. They understand when someone is uncomfortable. They recognize manipulation tactics. They notice when tone doesn't match intention. This emotional perception becomes a silent advantage in navigating complex social situations. But society doesn't always interpret it that way. Because of extroversion dominance, silence is often misjudged as detachment or disinterest. This leads to labeling behavior as weird or suspicious. In reality, it is often just reserved behavior, a preference for listening over speaking, for observing over reacting. In some cases, this becomes a form of low-profile behavioral control. Quiet individuals are often comfortable staying in the background, not seeking attention, not competing for visibility. They choose when to speak, rather than speaking to fill silence. This intentional communication style can make them seem distant, but it also gives them control over their presence in social environments. And control changes perception. When someone is not easily readable, people begin to assign meaning to their silence. This is where fear of the unknown plays a major role. Human psychology is wired for rapid evaluation. We try to categorize people quickly. Safe, unsafe, friendly, threatening, and silence disrupts that system. This is why quiet individuals are sometimes misinterpreted as unpredictable or even dangerous, not because of evidence, but because of uncertainty and tolerance. When behavior is not easily explained, the mind defaults to caution. But here's the important distinction. Perception is not reality. In reality, silence is often associated with introspection. Many quiet individuals are deeply reflective, engaged in internal analysis, and focused on understanding rather than reacting. Their introspective thinking allows them to process emotions and situations more thoroughly, not less. At the same time, this internal processing can be misunderstood as emotional suppression. People assume that if emotions are not expressed openly, they must be building up internally in a harmful way. While emotional suppression can exist in some cases, it is not a defining trait of all socially reserved individuals. Many simply regulate expression differently. And when emotion meets misunderstanding, distortion happens. Some narratives suggest that quiet people possess hidden intentions or calculated behavior patterns. In truth, what is often labeled as strategic manipulation is more accurately strategic thinking and social awareness. The ability to understand people does not automatically imply intent to control them. It can just as easily reflect empathy, caution, or emotional intelligence. Still, the stereotype persists. Because silence creates space, and in that space, imagination grows. There is also another layer: risk and decision-making. Quiet individuals are often perceived as calculated risk-takers, not because they seek danger, but because they evaluate consequences more deeply before acting. Their decision-making process tends to involve observation, analysis, and delayed response, rather than immediate reaction. This can give them a competitive advantage in certain environments, social, academic, or professional, where patience and awareness matter more than speed. But again, this is often misread as hidden dominance or strategic control, when in reality, it may simply be thoughtful restraint. The truth is, silence itself is neutral. It is neither dangerous nor harmless. It is a communication style shaped by personality, environment, and experience. The real mental danger appears not in silence itself, but in how silence is interpreted. When society repeatedly labels quietness as suspicious, it creates pressure on individuals to perform extroversion, even when it doesn't match their natural behavior. This can lead to social misunderstanding, identity masking, and emotional disconnect. The danger is not the silence, it is the misreading of it. Because perception shapes reality in social spaces, and when silence is misunderstood, it becomes a mirror reflecting other people's fears, biases, and assumptions. In the end, quiet individuals are not puzzles to be solved or threats to be decoded. They are simply different ways of engaging with the world through observation, reflection, and controlled expression. So, the next time you encounter silence, don't rush to interpret it as absence or danger. It might just be awareness. It might be thought in progress. It might be a mind observing far more than it reveals. If you like the content, do us a favor, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with others. It really helps us keep creating more content like this. Don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. Thanks for watching.